Welcome, everyone. Another episode of Drink While You Think, or which one of these is not like the other. As your host, Kenji and Matthew, I'm clearly not wearing the right shirt. I can't imagine why all these people are wearing these green VerifyIQ shirts. Maybe it has to do something with our awesome guest, Tom, our buddy who we haven't seen in a while.
Hey, everyone.
Tom's here with us from not so close to where we are. Tom, what's going on with you, your neck of the woods? Tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Tom Dvorak here, a co-founder over at a little software company called VerifyIQ. If you've been playing around in the QBO or Zero app stores, you might have seen us. We are a file quality support app. We've been around for a little over a year now, actually. It's time flies, and we help medium to large size cloud bookkeeping practices get peace of mind on file quality and save buckets of money on management overhead in managing month-end close and file review processes. So that's our jam, and we've been busy on the dev side. We've been busy selling. We've been busy growing.
And so You said the word process, not process. I mean, who in the world would say something like that?
Oh, must be these goofy Canadians north of the border.
You're in
to find out.
Yeah, so I am based in the lovely city of Calgary, Canada, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We were rated one of the top 10 or top 6 places to live globally.
Really?
Last year. Yeah, we rated pretty high.
Which means they were 6th. I love when people say we're rated like in the top 6.
Yeah, exactly. We're rated in the top 100. Yeah, or the top 97, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, what are you drinking today, Tom? Most importantly.
So I'm supporting not quite local. So my wife and I were both very avid skiers. So we're supporting Fernie Brewing from Fernie, BC. This is their Product 9 Pilsner. And yeah, Fernie's a little ski town about 3.5 hour drive from here to the south, kind of close to the US border. They get tons of snow, so we do tons of skiing there.
Fernie, I like it. Fernie Pilsner, nice. Mr. May, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Stone Imperial Stout, and I don't know how they say this, but it's an 8.1%, and that's what kind of week it was.
Hold it back up one more time. Those look like almost, Tom, like on the bottom, like skis crossed. Those ski. I mean, I was thinking skiing, but I guess not. Look at an X and an A. No, not really. But that's good brewery there at Stone. Are you still drinking? Are those the ones that the guys from Giraffe sent you?
No, I'm way done with all those.
Okay. Nice. And I'm drinking kind of random, not repping really anything besides Jamaica Red Stripe. I mean, it's
well done.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of these where, is the beer that special, not really good lager, good like hot summer weather, but like just always the cool bottle. First time you ever had a Red Stripe, it's like, oh, what a cool bottle on the Jamaican kind of flag thing. It's just cool. So anyway, cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers, gents.
Okay.
You're both repping officially branded beers today. Now, I think on one of your previous shows, you guys were drinking like the homemade moonshine.
Yes.
Have you guys discarded it, or have you consumed all of it? Like, is everyone still alive?
It's all
we're
consumed.
still like I have a couple weird ticks and twitches, and like I end up probably due to some of these. But no, we're on. I'm gonna get ready to start batch number 5, probably this weekend. We've gone through, so I delivered some to Matthew. I think our last round was the German Hefeweizen. Should be ready in another week. Will be a Belgian farmhouse Saison. We'll see how that is. That's about ready. That'll be our next one. And then after that, I'm either going to do a West Coast IPA or kind of a try again on the American Amber Ale. We'll see. So no, I guess the answer on that, Tom, is no. And if my wife were here, she'd just be shaking her head like, no. He's kind of gone beer brewing crazy. Like, I'm sure there's Amazon packages on the front door. There's more brewing equipment. I've gone way into it, so it's
amazing. Have you had any bottles explode yet?
No, I've not had any bottle bombs. I am worried. So my wife is going over to visit a good friend of ours to here actually pretty soon. Her husband's a good friend. I'm having her take over a couple bottles, and the one that is still actually carbonating in the bottle, which is that Saison, I told her, like, just handle that one carefully, because normally I store them down in the basement. I took them away because, yeah, if you don't get the measurements just right, you got exploding bottles.
Well, I think one of my old roommates, he did the home brew in our little apartment, and I remember like 3 a.m. one day, and it was just in the middle of our living room. He had it all on the coffee table, just like a gunshot in our living room. And
Yeah,
we all got up, and I set up a chain reaction. There was like 4 bottles that all went at once.
Yeah, you could. It can get a little dicey. That's actually one that I'm pretty particular about, measuring that one out exactly to try to get it. But who knows? We haven't had any yet. I'm sure I will, knock on wood. But yeah, so far so good. We'll have more on here soon. Matthew's been a good sport about tolerating all this. The cool thing is, he and I are realizing in our little circle of life thing, all my brewing grains are making great like chicken feed for Matthew's chickens. He has a chicken coop in his backyard now. So
Yeah,
the circular economy. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, the chickens are the biggest fans of Kenji's brewing so far.
I knew it. I knew that was coming. So, all right. So VerifyIQ. Okay, you actually helped me bridge this gap a little bit, because Tom, you mentioned VerifyIQ. You guys are focused on file quality. And I was kind of thinking like, gosh, I've known Tom for a number of years now and caught up. But I also was doing a little bit of research. I'm like, Tom is not the classical accountant at all, and really does not do that. You're more involved in technology. So I was like, I got to refresh myself on Tom's background. And two former jobs of yours really intrigued me. They were, you mentioned you love skiing. So you were a ski instructor at one point.
I was. My first job ever, teaching 3.5-year-olds how to ski.
And what was the mountain that was at?
Yeah, so I grew up in Vancouver, BC, and we're very blessed there. So, big urban center, and we actually have 3 ski hills right in the city. So it's kind of the magic of the west coast of Canada is you got mountains right next to ocean, just rammed up against the coast. So you can go swimming during the day and skiing in the evening during some times a year.
Gosh.
And there was, my parents used to live kind of right near the base of one of the hills. So kind of like after dinner, I'd go up and go do a few runs, and that was kind of the winter job on the weekends was teaching skiing. So yeah, Grouse Mountain.
Gosh. Yeah, Grouse Mountain, huh? I mean, it didn't quite have, I wasn't sure if it was quite the same notoriety of like a Whistler Blackcomb. Probably not exactly, but great.
No, so here's the thing, like my skiing has only gotten more and more luxurious over the years in terms of snow quality. Because like Grouse Mountain being urban, part of it is like it just doesn't get that much snow and it's pretty warm. And we do more skiing wearing rain ponchos than we ever would wearing thick insulated jackets. So I just assumed that like hard pack ice was what skiing was. Like you just went skiing on rails all the time, right? And it wasn't until I discovered that, I live a few hours from Whistler and I can now afford to ski there, that I'm like, this is what real snow is. And now I've moved to Alberta and we got the champagne powder, and like, okay, this is what skiing on really wide skis feels like.
No longer like on long like ice skates needing to kind of cut through. Yeah.
No. Like I kid you not, like half the days I taught up there, you could have just brought ice skates.
Okay, so I'm a huge ski nut. I've talked about that before. That's where would have been like a dream job. Another one that also looked pretty good too, a little different. You were a yacht skipper. You got to tell me what that was about.
Yeah. Oh, part of an ill-spent early part of my 20s. So funny. I credit my parents on both the skiing and the sailing front. So like my parents are not into yachting. Our family never had a boat, nothing like that. But it's this sort of like community sailing club in kind of the north end of Vancouver. And putting your 10-year-old into sailing summer camp is the exact same price as putting them into like bike camp or soccer camp or anything like that. So I got thrown into sailing camp when I was 10, and just kind of stuck with that, became an instructor there. And a few of us got into like the youth racing circuit of like the really small bathtub boats. They go about 3 miles an hour at best. And I think one day we're kind of doing some work at one of the other clubs, just kind of doing race committee work one night. And then so this French guy rolls into town. He just moved up there from Miami with his boat. And he's like, "Hey guys, I want to race this big boat. I've got a cooler full of beer. Do you guys want to come crew for me on Wednesday nights?" Yeah, right place, right time. And so crewed with that guy for about 10 years. And in the process, I ended up being doing some school overseas, and just found my way into this job in the Adriatic, where they were desperate for captains. And the certification course, terrifyingly, involved 4 days in a classroom without ever having set foot on on a vessel. Like, I think they've tightened it up a bit since, but like that's all it took. And I've been on the round boats before, and yeah, I had a job for 8 weeks over a summer, basically supervising heavily intoxicated clients on a week-long tour around Croatian islands.
Oh man,
Wow.
Yeah.
that's not bad. I didn't. Well, shoot, my wife and I did our 20th wedding anniversary through the Croatian islands. So I should have known. I could have hired an amazing captain. I could have just sat there and drank all day and said, Tom, can you just go online real quick and get your recertification, I'm sure, for this, and come back?
So here's the terrifying thing. There's no recert. Like, I'm certified for life. I have this thing for life.
Okay, next time. Okay, we got to return back to Croatia. We've got a captain. Yeah. This is perfect. This is perfect.
Very hidden. Like, it's less hidden than it used to be, but I think that coastline has 1,200 islands.
Yeah, it is just gorgeous. It was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, all right. Now I'm going to be dreaming of Croatia again, and the times when we all used to be able to travel, which seems like long gone. I know. So
it'll be a while. Yeah. So those are both in my pre-accounting years.
Yes, but I mean, even accounting, like I guess how did VerifyIQ come about?
Yeah, totally. So I'm not an accountant by training. I'm not a CPA. I took some accounting classes in my undergrad, but my undergrad was a business degree, but I actually majored in applied finance and real estate. So my first internships were kind of arranging JV financings on kind of several $100 million or condo towers in Vancouver, and then ended up kind of in the real estate world doing leasing and build outs of stores for first food retail chains, then fashion retail chains. And with that, I ended up getting 1 foot into the math on kind of the modeling on all those deals, but then another foot into the actual operations of these retail stores. And I think a mutual friend of ours, Bob Wang, at the time, he was starting and then growing his cloud accounting practice, and he put together a really smart guy, and he put together a really impressive advisory board. And I was flattered at the time to be invited to be part of that. So and the big thing that I was asked to bring there was knowledge about repeatable process operations. I've done some training in Lean Six Sigma, green belt, black belt, that kind of thing, and was just sort of along for the ride of learning what accounting was in terms of a bookkeeping service line. And at the time, I shifted my career as well to go from working real estate operationally to working in a real estate software company. So now I had, 1 foot into software.
Yeah.
And in Bob's firm, we saw this issue of quality, and we just kept living the pain of us not having great quality in our books, having to apologize to clients for it. We were playing a lot with outsourcing. Actually, I got an interesting question for you guys later on outsourcing. And we were just trying to manage quality. And we eventually ended up hiring extra managers. We mercifully had the gross margin to afford it, but we hired extra managers to work on deep dive reviews at the end of each month. Just say, hey guys, like, forget all the checklists that you gave the team, forget empowerment, just like double check everyone's work before it goes to the client. And about 6 months after doing that and demotivating everyone by doing it, we found out, hey, like, the mistakes they're catching are the same stuff over and over again. And that was really the light bulb moment. And that's where Bob and I decided to spin this out, and I kind of led the charge on that of saying, look, here's a highly structured process. We're repeating it 12 times a year per client, and it requires mechanized consistency. And that's something that machines are super good at, and humans are really, really not good at. So
not good at and don't like doing, right? It's just hard to, I think it's difficult for people to do self-review, I mean, it doesn't matter what
Totally.
level, no matter what level you're at, to self-review. And then a lot of firms, to your point, either don't have the margin or scale to whether you can have a role or a process or a manager in there doing all this second set of eyes. So yeah, it's been I mean, not to make it a VerifyIQ commercial, but it's been great for us because right when we found at the right time, yeah, you guys, I mean, we had a couple of managers. We had two of our top team members, right, who were great team members who were having to do the double checking of work.
Yeah.
We were able to quickly, reduce the number of the hours drastically of that team to where we could repurpose as managers and still get the file quality checked using VerifyIQ. So it's been a great process for us. Now we're kind of going through the process of having team members use it to like self-check and stuff. So it's been good. It's been good. It's been interesting seeing like just how much tech is coming out of Calgary, Toronto in the accounting space. It's been kind of cool to see them as much. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in Toronto these days, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a bit of a boom, and I think a lot of it is just spillover from groups south of the border, kind of needing to near shore labor here, and with I think kind of getting foreign workers in not being as easy as it used to be. From certain parts of the world. So that's part of the boom here, but there's always been a bit of a cluster. Vancouver and Toronto have been big just in terms of alignment of time zones with the tech hubs in the US.
What about Calgary? More... Yeah, so Calgary, I haven't heard that before. Is that just unique? And you guys are there, the home folks are up there. I mean, it's just kind of like I hear some up there. Are you guys a little bit kind of? Is that a little bit unusual?
We're a bit secondary. We're a bit secondary, and I think with the world going more and more to remote work, these secondary markets have grown a bit. And I know Kelowna out in BC is sort of a secondary market for Vancouver. I think Calgary here, we're a bit of an oddity. So I just cover like VerifyIQ is actually based in Vancouver. All of our coders are there. My partner Amin, who runs our dev team, he's in Vancouver. We moved to Calgary for my wife's work, so I'm the one outlier out here. But you mentioned Helm. I know that the cash flow app in the QBO and Zero app stores. They actually just raised some money a few months ago. Yeah. So they've had a lot of success here, and they're spun out of a local accounting firm. I know Dry Run, another cash flow app. They're out of Edmonton, so they're just 2 hours north of us here. Yeah. Then Click Advisor, they're out of Lethbridge, a few hours south. So there's a bit of ecosystem, and actually part of that is. I think what a lot of Canadian tech companies in general get, that we actually have a lot of really good government backing and a lot of really good government loan programs, even pre-COVID. There were a lot of really good scientific research and experimental development grants. And then Alberta has been a oil industry province for decades. Yeah. And there's a really big push in the last 5 years to diversify. And so there's a program called Alberta Innovates where you needed a bit more than a business plan and a CV to get a $20,000 grant, but you didn't need much more than that. And I know a lot of groups that were able to start working on ideas as a result of that.
Gotcha. Very interesting. I know that I think I saw, and I don't know, Matthew, if you had a chance to look at this one at all. Rippling, was that last week? Those guys had another huge raise.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it? Did you see this, Tom, at all?
No, this is news to me here. I got to quickly catch up on Google here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Rippling had, not Canadian. I mean, they're obviously West Coast, or in the space from a payroll and kind of IT spot. We'll have to get Joel Lacayo on here to talk about it. That'd be a fun one, actually. But I think they just raised
145 million, Series B.
145 million, B round. Yeah, just a couple days ago.
Just a small B round.
Just a small B round, 145.
Yeah, so valuation of 1.35 billion. So they're a unicorn.
Yeah, they're officially a unicorn. I mean, it always feels a little bit unfair, right? When you think about the size of the raises and the valuations coming out of the West Coast, out of Silicon Valley. They're just like, we probably, you're up with you guys, even in Atlanta to some extent, like a $2 million raise. You're like, wow, look at that. Like that probably wouldn't even make any news out in Silicon Valley. You got to have these massive ones, but good for those folks. And I think it's always, you and I, Matthew, usually kind of feel like it's a good thing when we see activity from investors in the space. Still waiting to see any like big ones kind of really hit, but I don't know. We'll see about what the payroll side does with your Rippling, but anyway. All right. Well, let me see what else. So, Tom, I guess the product, you guys are selling the product to accountants.
Yeah. So the dark
what's
chat.
that? What's that? I mean, I remember.
Those are easy people to sell to.
I was
They're
going to
not
say,
picky
like,
and a pain in the butt at all, right?
yeah, I imagine
Right,
trying to
Tom? Right?
They don't ask
something
any
Matthew.
questions.
They
Yeah.
don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
No expectations.
No due diligence. No questioning of assumptions. They just buy. It's
They
great.
just open the wallet up and buy. Like it's got to be a little tough, I assume, selling to accountants, isn't it, or not really?
Yeah. You know what? I think for folks that really have the problem that we solve, it's actually a very easy conversation. And then of course there's, okay, great testimonial, third-party validation, some kind of a small pilot, and if the efficacy is proven, then great, they're on board. And there's sort of a certain class that's really easy. Then there's kind of the bigger groups where you start now having to push a very rational use case and business case through a bureaucracy and levels of approvals. And then, the security and compliance teams that have all built their own fiefdoms in these organizations, they get involved. And of course, we pass everything, but it just takes a while to vet through all that. And then with the enterprise groups, they're looking for SOC 1, SOC 2, and we're a younger company, so we're still working on SOC 2. So into that. And then I think one of the hardest ones are the really small groups, right? And the reason that they're really hard, and we've actually now consciously put less and less effort behind chasing this area. And when we get inbound leads from this segment, we almost look at it, not reluctantly, but we just sort of budget our time accordingly. In that, when it's a smaller firm, when I say smaller, I mean, let's say around 15, 20 cloud clients, someone who's, really just like building their own brand from the ground up and starting out, and they've got maybe one or two contractors working for them. I think that they're not feeling the pain of managing quality at scale yet, and we're trying to sell them a scalable solution, right? And it's just the old saying of don't use a cannon to kill a mosquito. And whenever you kind of get the pre-qualification questions in of like, oh, you've got less than 20 clients, I'll say, have you heard of QBO's bookkeeping overview feature that's available natively for free in QBOA, right? And that's a tool that I think is a scaled down version of VerifyIQ, and I think does a very good job when you're not collaborating with other team members. And I end up just saying, hey, look, like please, like don't buy our product until you actually need it. And then. But for groups that are north of 50 clients, they're having to collaborate. Stuff's getting lost in translation. There, it's actually like our sales cycle is often like less than 2 weeks on a lead like that.
Oh, that's good. Pretty quick on those. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I guess it's with anything. If you're hitting that ideal client profile and you're really hitting that segment with the right solution, then it does go pretty fast. And it's kind of fun to pick on our industry as accountants, like oh, what a pain in the butt to sell to. Bunch of tightwads who like to say no, don't like to spend money. But you're right, when you see at least something that is a very known pain point, regardless of how cheap all of us accountants may be, you're like, okay, I need that solved. And actually, you can kind of run the ROI fairly quickly, right? Whether it's in your head or not, going, okay, if I can free up a little bit of time, I mean, you're God, just let me do it. So.
Yeah,
but still, I wouldn't have to want to sell to Matthew. Matthew is, regardless of him being an accountant, he's a pain to sell to anything. So
yeah, and kind of where we've landed, we've got some validation on this, and I'm trying to get like enough good data to actually get a good white paper together. But we figure for every 200 cloud clients someone's serving, if they're kind of the average size client, for every 200 clients you're managing, we can save an FTE manager in a practice.
Yeah.
Right, or the equivalent of an FTE. So whatever an FTE is worth to you fully loaded, for every 200 clients you serve, we can take that off the bottom line. And we try to value price so that we're delivering at least 5-to-1 value. So we'd like our cut, the savings, but that's our pitch. And when someone's only got 20 clients, well, then all of a sudden saving 1/10 of an FTE, sure, it's valuable, but do you really notice it? Like, does it really materialize, or does just activity expand to fill the available time?
Yeah, definitely. I'll switch gears here a little bit. We were talking a little bit about this beforehand, before we hit the record button. Matthew and we've talked many times before about our crazy teenagers and things going on, all this during COVID. Yeah. You, my friend, are at the other end of the spectrum, Tom. You've got, what, is it 1-year-old or right around there? Like,
A very opinionated 14-month-old toddler.
Oh man. Wow.
What is that like? I'm trying to imagine that. Like, I hear that it's probably terrible, but it's also like, well, it's just crazy because they never leave. Or I guess at that age they wouldn't be getting out away from you anyway either. So I don't know. Any perspective on what it's like with a toddler?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not the hardest age to parent through during COVID. I don't think, because I think the social needs and the social development, it's just not the same as when they can fully interact and elementary school. I got to think high school and kind of the social pressures that already exist. Like that's got to be tough, right?
Yeah.
I think for us, of course, like our daycare closed, right? And ours is one that has not yet reopened because they've reopened a bunch here, but with a lot of rules and with the supervisor ratios of number of children to caregivers for these really young ages, like they just can't make it work with all of the social distancing rules. So ours hasn't reopened. So we were very fortunate that we buddied up with another family from the daycare. So we have 2 kids that are really close together in age, and we're sharing a nanny. And that's been our answer to childcare. And my wife and I have been fortunate enough that we're able to just keep working somewhat unaffected. So,
and I guess that's a good point, because you're not at that age, you're not having to deal with like the whole, like, oh my gosh, the educational side of, like, they're missing out on learning how to read or do things like that. So it's probably, I guess, a few more years, you're probably getting near like the 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade or elementary school kids is probably where it's got to be about the worst.
Yeah, and talking to her, this topic comes up a lot in various conversations, and I think that annoyingly, I think the public schools here have really struggled to adapt and keep up and get kids participating at all. I think I've heard of like a few private groups that were already very digital and were able to flip a switch really quickly. But I think a lot of, that kind of elementary school age is what I've been hearing is the hardest, because you're relying on the supervision and also like the in-person supervision to get focus out of the learner. And I don't envy that. I really don't envy that, and especially when both parents are in a situation where they need to keep working. Like that's really challenging. I think socially, of course, what you guys have found kind of in your area, what you can do with bubbling with other families, right? Because I think that's part of how you solve for the social piece a bit. Kind of cluster 2 or 3 families, and then kind of draw the hard lines there. But how have you found it with teenagers?
Just like you said, challenging. It's already tough anyway, navigating social pressures and things, and then all being locked in the same household, and they don't really want to hang out with you anyway. It's pretty tough. Matthew's kids like him more than my kids like me, I think. He tries to claim that he's the meanest dad ever, but I
am the meanest dad ever.
He likes to try to claim that role. He's the meanest dad ever. But I also watch too, like his high school senior son comes and gives him a big hug all the time, like, and all this stuff. I'm like, wait, how did that happen? Like mine comes by and maybe gives me a punch on the shoulder or whatever. But like I
thought all seniors came and give you a kiss like every night, like said I love you and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh. No, that's not how it works. I mean, you need to write a book or something, Matthew. You and Laura do. I mean, I don't know your perspective. It's been, I guess, Matthew, how would you describe the summer's been for the kids? And then, like, do you think it's going to get better or worse here in the school year?
I mean, we had the big win where they got to visit their grandparents for 3 weeks, so our neighbor, Tom, drove my children 20 hours to my parents, to their grandparents, because they had bought randomly a RV out there, like within 30 minutes of my parents' house. And they were nice enough to do that. But we got our kids safely there because my grandparents are still living in that city too. So we have my parents who are in their 70s, and my grandparents are one's over 100 and one's in their 90s. So we were trying to figure out how they could get there safely. So we lucked out. So that 3-week break was key for them to like get some structured time with their dad, making them do push-ups or planks every day, and then reading an hour a day, plus a point system to get all the chores that they need to do before they can watch screens. So that saved them from that. So I think, but we also have some good neighbors. So we have 4 basically neighbors that are all the ones raising the chickens that kind of quarantine. But unfortunately for my kids, they're way older than all the kids in the neighborhood. So that helps me, but not my kids. So
Right.
my kids are troopers. I think we're doing really a lot better. One of my son's best friends is a senior and on the football team at the local high school. And that's where I felt like the meanest dad in the world, because I dropped the hammer and said, you can't hang out with him anymore. Like, we had in Atlanta, we had 14 of 17 high schools have COVID outbreaks. So
Wow.
you're seeing not consistent, kind of hygiene and standards. Now, the one school, of course, that doesn't have the outbreak is the one that my son's friend is on the football team at his high school. So, but I'm still the meanest dad in the world, I guess. So
that's and that's where I feel for you. Like I don't know what that feels like, and to have to manage that conversation, like, that just sucks.
Well,
yeah, it's tough.
Kenji has an adult. He has an 18-year-old that doesn't technically have to ask him.
If he wants to use that car that he's driving around in, or come back and sleep in his bed.
Yeah, I mean, you got some leverage, but technically
you don't. Right.
My son's 18 and 8 weeks or something.
Yeah.
You're like at some point you just got to raise.
I mean, the big thing,
raise them the best you can.
We're finding is, and you're a long way from this, Tom, but it'll sneak up on you. Is we're trying to figure out. I mean, August 1st, all the college applications opened up, and so,
right.
It's almost, with my son as a senior, it does a little bit of perspective. Like, all right, let's just get through. He's already 3 years through high school. He's kind of at that point where you're like, enough. Let me just get on to college. It's just hard to know what college is going to look like. It's just very difficult to understand what it's going to be like. So you're trying to make decisions and things. And we were on our vacation last week. I went and bought all the old guidebooks, right? Like, the best college, just to try to get the process kind of going. And you're like, well, these are the 2021 editions, but like, I mean, they're going to change so dramatically. It's very, very unusual. So
I'm curious, guys, you're actually the first pair I've asked this that are kind of in this age group of parenting, and with this lens on college. But when you think about where the real value comes from a college degree these days, and I think it used to be like an entry point into different classes of careers as a prerequisite, and also the jobs on the tail end were guaranteed, right? So that justified the premium for the education. And I think in the last few years there are debates on, do you get the actual ROI on going to a college or not? And I'm curious if all these programs go distance learning. And a good friend of mine, he's just finishing his MBA at INSEAD in France, and he's calling it the world's most expensive online MBA because they shut it down in late January. Right, and that's a six-figure US MBA program. And so I wonder, like, does that change, as parents, does that change your view on college?
Matthew's probably got the most interesting take on this one, right? Because
so my wife is one of the department chairs at Georgia State University.
Okay,
perfect.
Which is one of the largest universities in the United States, right? So the trend is that in the United States, if you stay within your state, tuition is much less expensive. Right. So the state schools that are seeing these huge increases in application, and the traditionally expensive or elite schools are seeing decreased ones, from what I understand. Not really, maybe not the Harvards, but I bet the Harvards are too, but there might be a 5 or 10 that don't see a drop off, but the next set under that, that it costs, $50,000 a year US to go to school, are seeing a drop off, because if you're going to do remote learning, you don't care a bit how big your classes are. So the enrollment in my wife's university has actually increased this year.
Wow.
So because you'll see it, like, it's like the haves and have-nots. It's like e-commerce is up, right? But occupancy-based businesses is down, right? So if you take something away, somebody fills the gap, right?
Totally.
So, but in our house, we have selected the early application school.
You have.
And Tipton is in his 5th day of a online, a class because my wife's a literacy person. My wife found a literacy person that's doing a writing class. So Tipton is 4/5 of the way through his first draft of his college application essay.
Now, going to disclose, or is that going to keep private, the early admit? I mean, just, you know, I mean, are you going to share that?
Oh no, he's going Georgia.
He's going Georgia.
Yeah, he's
Georgia.
early. He's doing the early commit Georgia one. So is what he's told me. So
Interesting.
Awesome.
and he's got the same way. He picked a state school like that's going to be relatively close. If he can go, great. It's far enough away from home. If not, it doesn't break the bank, right?
Yeah, the other side of it, Tom, is lots of discussions around, is this maybe one of the years too where, because things are so noisy and just challenging, that where people, your stretch school is going to be more attainable if you have the wherewithal, right? To where are the schools going to see that, like Matthew mentioned, some of the elites, the ones that were more technically difficult to get into, go, oh my gosh, we've got a challenge. We're going to have a hard time getting our numbers. We're going to be a little more open to someone who may not have qualified before if they can pay, which would be, I think it's tempting, right? As a parent of a kid, and you go, oh wow, you could get into Harvard, you know, whatever. Not that would happen, but to say, wow, you'd want to do that, but it doesn't really answer that question around ROI that you posed. And it also, I personally think, maybe feeds into some of the real challenges and negative aspects of the education system that ends up being more elitism and not being fair for the student who can actually perform there versus who can financially get in. So it'll be a lot of things to kind of consider and get through there. For sure. But you got a little bit of time to think through that, Tom. Don't worry.
Yeah, and I'm curious, guys. So, you got your parenting hat there, and then on the other side, as wearing your employer hat, when you go to hire, how much does a degree and an alma mater play into any hiring decision, or does it play in at all?
Well, for us, I mean, we're spoiled, right? Like the average person that we hire is like 20 years into their career.
Right.
So we kind of like 20 years ago where you went to school is a little less important than like the traditional accounting model where you hire them out of school and groom them. So we're spoiled, so we don't have to worry about that right now.
It's, you know, that's a little bit
in 20 years.
What that's a little bit like though is the way that they're starting to throw out more and more the ACT and SAT, the traditional testing, test you had to take care of in the United States, as not being as valid. And now there's been a lot of testing issues to where they can better say, well, we used to use those as a good proxy for who could compete and succeed in our school as a simple proxy, simple metric. And now they're saying, well, actually, we've got all the data. We can look at transcripts and actually see a bit of a pattern of which courses did you take, how much rigor did they have, how did you perform in them, which is technically a better means of assessing talent. So kind of like Matthew said, it's a little bit different, but in the same way of like, you'd certainly rather look at someone's career progression, understand like, what did you do in that position versus, hey, did you just happen to score really well on that test one day? Or you happen to somehow backdoor your way into Yale or wherever, who knows? It'll be interesting for sure. It's kind of one of those where it'd be fun to kind of think this through if your kid wasn't going through it right now.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll get there. But I guess we'll wrap it up and come to a close here. I guess I would say, going back, and we'll close it on this, skiing. So are you guys going to let any of us Americans come up there and ski in Canada this year? You guys going to have all the resorts to yourself, or we never get back in?
Yeah, I mean, if they can, well, here's the thing: the resorts will all go bankrupt if you guys don't come up and ski. So yeah, we'll enjoy it all to ourselves for 1 year, and then we'll all be ski touring right after that, right? So actually, an unfortunate side effect. So one of the ways that you're allowed to cross the border is that if you are transiting from the U.S. mainland up to Alaska. So if you're in transit, you're allowed in. However, if you attempt to pull into a resort town like Banff with a U.S. plate on your vehicle, you are pulled over on the highway exit.
Oh, wow.
So we've been spending some weekends up there, and 2 RCMP squad cars on every off-ramp, and I've just seen like every car pulled over is U.S. plate.
Wow. Okay.
That's not very neighborly.
No, it's not.
But it's
right?
also very
and I
smart.
mean, kind of the expectation is like if you're coming in like, okay, like you need to report where you're staying, expected travel times, and like you're not quite escorted, but like, it's sort of it's like one notch below GPS tracker and escort in transit to Alaska.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, we can just hope that it opens back up somehow. I mean, we'll see. And otherwise, I'd love to get on the slopes with you, Tom. We'll have to see if we can do that at some point. All right.
You can rate our beers?
I'm gonna go first on my red stripe here.
I've already rated mine.
Hold on. You already put it in, or I gotta enter it?
No, it's the second time.
Oh no. Hold on. Oh no. Of course, I didn't. Last pass. Too many passwords. We may have to do it manually. How many times can I get logged into it? Okay, so I'm gonna give the red stripe that won't come up now. Now I broke it. We'll have to do it manually. We'll have to do it manually. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna give the red stripe a 3.75. That's a little bit stronger than I would give. That's good.
You're on a 5-point scale, Tom, with 0.25.
I told Tom about it, yeah.
Oh, you already told him? Right.
Yeah. Matthew, how about you? How'd that porter come out from Stone?
No, this is stout. But the Stone Xocoveza, it's a solid 4.25 today. I don't know. I've already ranked it, but I don't know where I ranked it. Probably higher than that last time. This one wasn't. It was like the last can in a pack. It may not have been as fresh.
Maybe not. You got to pick up the pace a little bit. Tom, how about yours?
There you go. You know what? I'm a bit of a Pilsner snob. My family is of deep Czech heritage, and
that's a very Pilsner, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty sure that I got Pilsner Urquell in the baby bottles when I was younger. So it's a tough bar to beat. So with that being the 5 out of 5 Pilsner bar, I'm gonna give this one a solid 3.
Okay.
No. It's gotta be like, that's pretty mean.
No, that's fine. No, we've had some of the ones, Tom. Trust me, we've had some pretty.
Oh yeah.
And 3 to means it is unremarkable. It is
unremarkable. Oh wow, that's a 3.
Yeah. So you're good. Yeah, it's drinkable. It's not offensive, but
you're not doing the local brewery any favors over there.
Like there's a Fernie Brewing. I think they actually may have. No, actually, no. I'm looking at the label. These guys have not been acquired by one of the big ones because there are a lot of these local craft ones.
They all act like they're craft and they're not really craft. I'm still waiting. I'll say that, Tom. And when I do, hopefully we can get them across the board. If I do brew some Pilsners, I'm waiting on those because those are technically very difficult to brew. So the home brews. I'm going to wait because now I know who I'm going to go to really make sure if I get good at it, it's got to get through the Tom. Filter first.
We'll put them in a blind lineup of 10 different Pilsners, right? And I'll see if I can pick them out.
Perfect. Man, thanks for coming on. It's really good seeing you. And it's been too long. Glad you and the family are doing well. Glad VerifyIQ is rocking and rolling. And
we'll see you at AcuityCon at the end of September for sure.
Yeah, I'll send out some people at AcuityCon. We're going to get you there for that, at least virtually. We're doing a virtual conference still. And we'll have links and show notes in here so you guys can connect with Tom and find out more about VerifyIQ. But thanks for coming on, man.
Okay, thanks. Cheers, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Cheers.
Cheers.